Okay, welcome everyone once again. I come before you, and we're here in this episode of Walking with the Master. And in this episode of Walking with the Master, we get a chance to do a flashback at a couple of doc students, and these are grandmasters in the system. And I wanted to definitely give you all out there an opportunity to hear and feel them again. But let me just introduce them to you. We have Grandmaster Tom Curry here. He's in the Staten Island area. That's Staten Island, New York area. So welcome, Grandmaster Curry.
Us. Welcome, Joe.
Good. And we have, I'm sorry, say again?
Thank you for having me.
Oh man, thank you for being present. And we have as well, once again, Grandmaster George Logan out of the Connecticut area. That's that New England, it's called the New England area, right?
Yes, sir. we're part of that New England area, no doubt.
Yes, indeed. Well, that's Grandmaster George Logan. Let's welcome, sir.
Yes, aye. Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for being present. All right. Well, here, as you know, I'm Grandmaster Anthony Muhammad, and I'm excited to be the host of this show. And in truth, you know, I'm not just a host. I'm a spectator as well. I'm here looking and listening and learning from my brothers who I've known for many years, doing what they do. And this particular show is really dedicated, it's always dedicated to Doc, but in this particular sense, this show is dedicated to those who, you know, set up opportunities for others to come in line and study under Doc, which is seminars that we actually had. Now, not only did they put on seminars, they trained with Doc, you know, under his tutelage, but there was a specific aspect that, you know, these two gentlemen actually did, and they gave seminars. They produced environments, one, for Doc to actually receive benefit from his training, and also they gave the opportunity for others to receive the benefit of Doc's training. So I gotta say I'm one of those as well, and I'm interested to hear like you all are. So let me start off, Grandmaster Logan. Let me start with asking you. I mean, when did you start giving seminars? Do you remember when you started putting on seminars for Doc?
Wow, you know, as you get older, your mind gets a little bit more fuzzier. but as I can recall, I started giving the seminars during the '80s, the late '80s, I would think, and Doc was coming to the seminars in the early '90s or so. And at that point, we were at Lighthouse Park. You attended one of those back in the day, if you can remember, when we had
Yes.
Professor Warrington Hudlin and company. But we used to give it at the Lighthouse Point Park. That's a state park in New Haven, Connecticut. And Doc was very fond of that place, you know, because, you know, as you know, he loves water, you know, and it was surrounded by water, you know, and he used to look forward to coming there, you know. And he was like, this place is really nice. It's not like Orchard Beach. You don't have to pack your gun or anything. But yes, we started and you know, I would assume it was the early '90s that Doc first started coming to the seminars there.
Beautiful. Grandmaster Curry, how about you?
It's funny because later on, in the later '90s, where I called up Grandmaster Bill, and Doc was already, I think he was already in Vermont, and I said, hey, do you think, Grandmaster Bill, do you think Doc would enjoy if I had like a 10-man private seminar in my basement, which was at the time the House of Pain? That was where I taught. And I says, I'll charge like $70 a head. They're all school owners. They can afford it. And it'll be something like a boutique. And he goes, you're going to charge $70 a head for 10 people? And you're asking me if Doc would like it? He'll love that. He goes, of course he'll love it. So when he came down, I think GrandMaster Logan drove him. With, yeah, you drove him. You were at that first seminar we had down in my basement. I don't know if you
Yes, me and Professor McCall, I recall coming to your basement before you had the dojo, and we would do the seminars in your basement with Doc.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. That was like the start. I guess that was the start of the seminars with him. After that, I used to try to get him twice a year.
Excellent.
And you know, speaking on seminars, you know, I remember the first seminar that I can recall that Doc had done was, I don't know, maybe in like 1981 or so, and it was at Lamar Thornton's facility, to Harlem YMCA. And at that time, a lot of people didn't even know what seminars were, you know, because Doc was a pioneer in terms of the jiu-jitsu and the karate. I was kind of familiar with it because in judo, they call them clinics, you know. Yeah. So when it first was said that he was coming to do a seminar, people were like, what's a seminar? You know, but they found out shortly. After. But I remember that vividly and stuff. Again, it was at the Harlem YMCA, and that must have been about 81 or so.
In terms of Doc coming to a seminar, what kind of preparations did you all do to make it happen? Well, and then I want to go into, well, let's go with that. What kind of preparations did you do for that?
I would encourage all my students and people who weren't my students, you know, that they definitely have to attend this. This is something that you don't want to miss, you know. This is the renowned martial artist of the 20th century, you know, and those who didn't see him before had heard of him, you know. So I would gather as many people as I could, you know. And a lot of people was like, you know, you're doing a seminar to get knowledge? I was like, yes, I get knowledge every day. And this is the person, one of the people that I'm getting this knowledge from. So, you know, I'm going to bring you to the well so you can drink some water, so to speak. And, you know, they were just fascinated of just being in his presence, you know.
All right. Well, the next question that I want to ask is, you know, well, you were giving me and you gave me, you know, the preparation. Tell me, what did you want in terms of the seminar? Tell me, what did you want to happen? And what did it mean to you to have a seminar? And I know we still have seminars, but in terms of with Doc, what did we want from the seminar to happen?
Well, I always wanted people to come together and have good camaraderie along with great techniques, you know, and we used to make it a point that we're doing martial arts, we're not doing politics. So whatever your style or your beliefs may be, leave that at the door. And that was strongly urged, you know, if you're into that, then it'll be there when you come back. But, you know, we didn't want to taint the seminars or anything or the mood with that, you know, because there was so many great techniques and so many great technicians taking place, you know, that was practicing there. So this, you know, this is the things that we try to implement within our seminars.
Excellent. Okay. Yes, sir. That was Tom.
So when Doc would come down, I would want, I guess my concern most of all was that he had a good time, that he was having fun, like GrandMaster just said, integrating with the students. And I knew if he was laughing, that means the students were going to be laughing with him, because we know he was a funny guy, and he liked to laugh. He taught with humor all the time. I guess that's where we get it from. But and even today, I tell people, if you're going to train here, expect to laugh, because I can't be straight too long. I have to get a couple giggles in there. But and it was always that atmosphere. And as GrandMaster just said, you know, leave the politics at the door. It didn't matter what style. If we had in the adult division, other people come in. It's like, you know, check your ego at the door. If you need to take off your black belt, take it off. But just come in, because you're going to learn some new stuff, some very interesting things, different concepts that you haven't seen before.
Yes.
And you know, also, excuse me, also just to piggyback on what you just said, what was really unique about Doc's seminars is that he would meet and greet people, and foreign countries, be it Japan or wherever it may be, in China, you don't actually get to sit down and speak and talk and mingle with the masters. You might be able to speak to someone that's fourth in charge or something like that. So it was really unique. People really got to meet him and know him as the person that he was, and as a grandmaster just said, he was very comical, so he put people at ease as well, because they were so awestruck about his physical mentality, what he could do and stuff. But of course, his wit matched that. So he made people comfortable. And I think that is a good environment to learn, because when you're so under stress and nervous, and then you can't absorb anything, And then Doc would say too, don't try to learn everything, go with the things that you fancy. He would say, it's like eating. You eat until you please, not until you're full, because once you're full, you regurgitate and you got a stomach ache and all of the above. So he said, I'm gonna give you much, but take what you can handle.
Yes, 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 yes. I remember him saying many times. Well, tell me, what did you see in terms of the variations? You just mentioned the variations of styles and whatnot that would come out. What did you feel was being received? Well, of course, we know the knowledge was being passed on, and with that, but did you see anything special where, you got somebody who's a Taekwondo guy, or you have a judo guy, or you have, the various different styles that someone have focused on. And when they see him, Grandmaster Logan, you mentioned that they are in awe at his presence and whatnot. So did you see any things that you would want to introduce as in terms of how you see they felt about what they were getting?
Well, Doc would tell them from the beginning, don't forget what you have. I'm gonna put this with what you already have, and it'll make it better. Because he gave them principles. Principles is like principles is like the interstate. Techniques are like the cities in between. So once I get on the interstate, I can go to New York, to Jersey, to Connecticut. So that was the connection. And so when he told them to get off the line, now if you was a kicker and he introduced the principle of getting off the line, then you was able to kick. If you was a Chinese practitioner and you probably did more hands, then you would get off the line and you could use your hand techniques. So Doc introduced a lot of principles, which led into many, many techniques and many systems, and people who were practicing was able to learn. And so I seen them come away from the seminars, and knowing that they've learned something new. So the point was, it was definitely put across that, don't forget what you have, put this with it and make it better.
Man, what a teacher. Yes, Grandmaster Curry.
That's a hard one to follow, Grandmaster Logan. You just nailed that one. I'm still on the highway. I'm still on the turnpike. Hey, you know what?
Read the signs along the way. You'll never get lost.
Just like Grandmaster Logan saying, I'm just gonna not reiterate, but you have different disciplines in the adult divisions, and they're like, say, Taekwondo, and they're used to doing things a certain way, or you have your Shotogan people dropping down, doing it, and now you learn. He's like, all right, you're gonna move this over this way, and he'll go into his technique, and we're all learning something different. So, we were in those seminars. I was in that seminar trying to replicate, working with his masters, working with his Shions and so on. And a lot of times, when Doc would demonstrate, he didn't always, it's not just Doc either, but he didn't always do the same technique one after another. He would do a technique and then he'd do it again. It was something different.
Right.
So, okay, each one teach one, each one teach one. And you look at your Uki, you go, what did he do? You go, I don't know what he did. And then we start doing something and he'll go, hey, you changing it already, huh? And I go, you got me in trouble. But it was just, it's free. We forget sometimes martial artist, the artistic part of what it is we do. We all do a little differently. But it's almost like you take a musician and he'll play something and then he plays it again. It's different. So it's just the expression coming out of that person. But it wasn't that he was hard to follow, is that he taught so much and gave you so much in a short time. It was very difficult to replicate a GM. I remember being downstairs at When Worlds Collide and he was demonstrating and you were busy upstairs, but you came downstairs, he was teaching and you were wearing a white shirt and pants. You weren't in the game, you were like this. And next thing you know, you did it. I'm like, I'm never going to get it. He just got it in 2 seconds. I watched it 13 times. I don't know what he's doing. But it was a lot of fun, It was a lot of fun trying to learn it anyway. Still trying to learn it.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful point too, having fun while you're doing it, even though it's as serious as it is. But you can have fun while doing it, and we were having fun. Let me ask you this question now to both of you. What do you think the difference is when one learned from the seminars and one learned from the dojo? Is there a difference in the learning process?
Well, that's a very good question, no doubt. And I'm thinking you're going to learn something from both, no doubt about it. But the seminars, he's dealing with so many different people. You don't get the individual attention, as you would at class. So when we did the classes, and we had them down in New Haven on Wednesdays, and we had them in Hartford on Sundays. And I used to cherish those moments, man. I was telling people you don't want to miss class for real, But of course, when you get the individual and the attention, then of course, I think you benefit from it more. But the seminars in itself, man, he's giving out so much knowledge, man. And he would do things that you never seen him do before. Even at the demonstrations, we would station people. We had 3 or 4 people, and he was so fast and so smooth, So we would station people. It was like, what did you see? I seen him do the block. I seen him do the throw. So we were trying to put all this together, And I was like, listen, he never taught us that in class. So he's always coming up with something innovative and something different, as Master Curry had said, GrandMaster Curry had said,
Yes. Excellent. GrandMaster.
Well, GrandMaster, I got to tell you, nothing trumps being there in the dojo, being the student, taking off your belt, putting on a white belt for a couple of years, for quite a few years, the white belt. Put him in the back. Nothing trumps getting there. To me, to smell the mats, the smell of the dojo. It's the floor, the feeling of the floor, the feeling of hitting the mat, the camaraderie in the room. Everybody's sweating, everybody's struggling. You're hearing life lessons as you're going along. Every class, Doc would come out, he'd come out with whatever he was thinking about. One of my favorite is he would talk about religion, which is, don't talk about religion. Why? We're humans. We're allowed to talk to each other, and he'd say, hey, you got to believe in something. And things that would hit home. So you can't replace that. That makes you a student. That's a true student. The seminars were nice or wonderful because now you get, like GM just said, you get to see something different because he's going to go there, he did go, and he had something in his head, or maybe he wasn't thinking of it, but once his individuality, his artisticness would start to flow, then you would start to see things that maybe you haven't seen before. And now you're working out with a whole new group of people. So it's a different learning environment. It would be like seminars with the icing on the cake, but they were not the cake. You can go to a seminar and learn a whole bunch of stuff, but you're not an ingredient in that cake unless you've been down in that dojo taking the ass whooping. That's right. So, lack of a better word, I stole that from GrandMaster Bill. Sorry, GrandMaster. I took that. Everybody, I took that. So it's different, but we all love the seminars. Doc said years ago, I says, a lot of us compete. I says, a lot of us like competition, and we grew up this way. And he said, why would you put your students through that when you're going to go in front of a judge who's going to be biased towards his own student and your kid's going to get ripped off. He goes, just go to the seminars. He says, everybody's happy. So that said, I like the cake and I eat the icing too. I like the icing.
Yeah. No, go ahead, GrandMaster.
Also, to piggyback also somewhat of what you just said too, what was very unique about Doc? He was the first and only person I knew to introduce his students into the seminars, in terms of them teaching, he was like, how many other, grandmasters or whatever, will let you walk beside him and not behind him, and that's what made it really unique, because people like yourself, GM Anthony and GM Tom, you got to put your version, your flavor on it, so it's, it's also almost like a stew, so to speak. You get a little bit of this and you get a little bit of that, whereas other seminars is just a governing person that's going to be demonstrating, and that's that. So I thought that was very unique as well. And and he was definitely credited for letting his students teach their skills on the mat as well.
Yes, which is unusual in that arena, because whoever is the primary want to stay primary all the way through it. But he would definitely give the opportunity, because really it was beautiful, because they got a chance to see him through other eyes, and that's a blessing. That's beautiful. So yeah, I mean, that was he was definitely innovative in how he presented, because he would walk into the room and like you said, Grandmaster Curry, that what he was thinking about, or maybe he wasn't thinking about anything. And when he walked in, he felt what he needed to teach. When he saw who was there, it just inspired him to go a certain way. And but he would always say too that God is his teacher, and he was inspired by God to present whatever he presented, but he was definitely a conduit that I know we are all appreciative of. So in terms of when we were talking about the those who study in the dojo, you got personal, you got a personal opportunity to be there in the field, because the exercises were not done. You clearly weren't getting the exercise part of class in the seminars. You get a little taste, a little peek into what would happen in the dojo, but in the dojo, see, that was the other part. See, now if you didn't take from the seminar and then make it something where you really trained on it, then I think you lose. Something can be lost, because there's a part of the body being in condition and going through the conditioning process that helps you to learn also a little different. What do you think about that?
Most definitely. Body and mind is one, and you have to have that connection, no doubt about it. And Doc's exercises, as you stated, was so unique. So people who just came to seminars may be witnessing that for the first time. And they were like, oh, excuse my word, but granted, we were getting that on a daily basis. But, Doc was very clever, man. You would get a guy that could do 300 push-ups, and he'd get down and boom, 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 and he's bouncing his chest off the floor, and then Doc would say, listen, put your hands out above you at 12 o'clock, make a diamond shape, raise yourself up on your fingertips. Let's see how many you can do. So it would break your ego. I mean, some of the exercise he would do. He'd be in a horse stance, and then you have to imagine yourself touching the walls. And and he would go out in the hallway and take a break and talk to friends and stuff, and come back. And when he came back, you better be in that same stance that he left you in. So his exercises were very unique, no doubt about it.
How about putting you're standing and then lean over, put your finger down on the mat, lift your leg, lift one of the legs up in the air and stay there.
I remember him doing the leg swings like that as well. You put down, for under cues, you put your hand down on the black belts, and above, he wants you to balance yourself on your fingertips, and you do the leg raises till he gets tired.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Grandmaster Kerry.
When you think about his eclectic exercises, and you look at like to us like kettlebell swings, they're different. Those exercises they're doing are different, and even the CrossFitters, their exercises are a little different. It's not the normal lift the weights and then go run 5 miles or do 100. So he was really ahead of his time. We're just doing, all right, you can do push-ups, you're doing push-ups. No. I remember one time, we were doing reverse push-ups where the guy, you're holding his legs up and you're on the floor and he's doing push-ups off of your legs. And then you just roll over. I mean, where was he coming up with this? And then he wanted you to do it, and it was, I remember, I might have said this once before, we were doing push-ups. He wanted like 30 push-ups. And I was like, he goes, somebody in here didn't do 30 push-ups. So I kept my mouth shut, and everyone started to look over at me. And then he goes, someone didn't do 30 push-ups. I'm going to say it again. So I didn't say nothing, like the ships don't sink together. So he goes, Tom, did you do 30 push-ups? I go, I didn't even do 8. I was waiting for you to come down to 8. 8. And then I saved the room because he started cracking up. He goes, I got you around. You tell the truth. I said, okay. Yeah, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing to instill in exercise in your students. And at the time, 2-hour classes, you can get a lot more done. Now it's just like people go, can you turn the air conditioner up a little higher? What air conditioner? No. No, you're not supposed to have air. You're supposed to be sweating in here. Or can I get a drink of my water from my water bottle? My pH balance. No.
I remember back training, man. It used to be back when summers were summers. It would be like 98, 99 degrees. And we'd be out there, and you better not go on the side and try to drink any water. You better not get under the shade either. You'd be like, today is a nice day to sweat. We're going to do that. And Doc also practiced what he preached. Those exercises that he gave us, he could do them. And if he wasn't doing them right, he would show you. And his fingers were so strong. And I know you've all been touched like that before, when he would hit you under the armpit and to your floating rib, and it would feel like a piece of steel, literally, And so I used to do the Phoenix eye, opposed to doing my thumb. He had a very strong thumb and finger, and I asked him one day, I said, how do you develop that? He said, I used to read the New York Times. He said, and after every page, I would take it and I would curl it up in my fingers and I would squeeze it hard as I can. I did isometrics with that. And that's how I built the strength in my fingers.
Man, I don't know if I remembered that it was Doc that told me that, but I use that all the time. Even when any of my students are asking me, I say, take a newspaper, right? And you take a sheet flat out and you begin to grab it from the center and just continue balling it. Keep your arms straight, just ball it, and you will find that your wrist and your hand will become very, very strong. So yes, man, just saying that reminded me of that. I'm glad that, that's where it came from. Then it was Doc who told me, I didn't remember where I got it from.
You know what they said, the fruit never falls far from the tree.
There you go. Yes, sir. Man, that's beautiful. So let's kind of go into, I want to go into you all's life again, and just tell me some of the things that you're doing with your students.
I try to keep it, of course, I don't think today that they can train like we did yesterday, but I try to keep it pretty much in that text, I created a number system back in the day and stuff, and it was very helpful for Soki Littlejohn when he developed Comite Rue in 1979, early 80s and stuff. And with that being said, I used to, when Doc used to teach you technique, he would give you the freedom, to finish that technique. And then, and so I would tell him, in all due respect, I want to learn the technique the way that you do it. I want the blueprint to that. And after I understand that, then I can put my touch on that. So this is one way that I could hold on to what he gave, And so with that being said, I try to keep it very much into the teaching mode. And if I modify something, I let it be known, this is my modification. But there is a set of techniques that I number from 1 to 10, and with that, I think I'm preserving the system, because, and back then I was thinking, I was like, wow. If people could have reserved these techniques from the 60s and 50s and on, what a hell of a library we would have had, Because I've seen people come in on Monday and then, they learn something, and Wednesday they come back and they don't know what they've done on Monday, So I would tell Doc, all due respect, once again, I want to mimic this technique the way that you're doing it, and then I'll put my spin on it. So I think that's very important, when you're talking about holding on to a system. Because karate shouldn't look, kung fu shouldn't look like taekwondo, and taekwondo shouldn't look like kung fu. So, I try to keep the techniques, and as well as his pictures, along with Professor V, Soki Littlejohn, and Doc on the wall before any kicks, punch, or throws are done in my dojo. When they first come in, I introduce them to my wall, and I let them know that this is the founders of the system, and this is the system that we're doing. So I think that is very important when you're talking about containing or holding on to a system of techniques, or or the system in itself.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you.
Pretty much similar to what GrandMaster Logan. I'm sorry. Oh my God.
No, I said go ahead, GrandMaster Curry.
Yeah, pretty much similar to what GrandMaster Logan was saying. With Doc's directive, we put together a small curriculum that all the schools could have taken a small piece of something and says, "Oh, you're a purple belt. Let's see what you know." And then you could look and say, okay, all right, he's real, or I'm not sure about you. Not today. So we had that going. Although that's out of print, everyone in my school bootlegged me and copyrighted, infringed everything I did. So they have the little notebooks, right? And that's okay. And they share it. I said, "You guys aren't busting copyright on me, are you?" "Oh, no. But they all have it. And then I was like, from white to yellow belt, if we have a set criteria, right? How are they going to know it? Like, they're not. Will they be able to memorize it? And then Doc said to me, put the Japanese names to it. He goes, because you guys like that. He goes, students like both. Be able to correspond with someone from a different system. So when they say this is Tayatoshi or Koshiguruma, you know what they're talking about. You educate yourself. So there's a lot going on, a lot of throws, locks, sweeps, falls, chokes, and pins, right? Hold downs. So to make it easier, I was playing guitar, and there's patterns in guitar. Because in your school, there was always music playing. I don't know to train ever without having music. So the tie-in is there. It's like you can't get away from the rhythmic movement. So I said, let me figure out, well, the patterns allow me to memorize certain places on a keyboard, not the keyboard, the keyboard too, but on a fretboard. Let me put the entire system that I know as I know it into a pattern. So each belt has a pattern where it's not really the PIA. I'm going to get to that. The pattern will go from 1 through say 15 techniques consecutively, so that they can memorize them, and as they do them, they call out the techniques they're doing. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this. It's whatever it is. And then on top of that, we made sure that they have to know the PIAs as well. So they'll come up for a yellow belt, which usually is an easy belt, but it's not really. They have to demonstrate the pattern, which takes them through the entire belt. Then they have to P a 1, and then we call out each technique so that they could do it. So it's trying to stay as true to form as I could remember it and put it down to paper and let the students experience. And as they're doing it, say, hey, have you Googled Moses Powell? Have you looked at that video, the movie, The Warriors Within? Have you seen his seminars? And just to keep his name out there, to keep his name alive. Because if they come up for testing and they don't know who he is, they're never going to get a belt out of me. They got to know who you guys are too. It's just, because then it becomes the Don Dada. Someone will come out and say, I made this up. I call this Staten Island Rue. This is Richmond Avenue Rue.
You know, Tom, that is so true. I use my syllabus for ranking, you know. For the yellow belt, you have to know, you know what I mean, X amount of things, the green belt, you know, and with these things, so if we do set 1, they are just using that as a model. So say if you're doing, you have to know 10 techniques in set 1, along with your basic four wall, along with your basic stands and strikes and things like this. So now when we move on to the next grade, which is green belt, okay, you don't forget those 10 techniques. Now you got to bring that with you. You know what I mean? So you're adding a library, so to speak. So now you have to do 20 techniques. And I'm looking to see that those first 10 techniques better be better than they was the first time, because you had time to practice these things. So I think this is a good way to keep Doc's system alive, you know, and thriving, you know, because we use this for belt ranking, and it just goes on and on and on. So at the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the year, you've known what you learned because it's documented and you're doing it in a regimen, you know, constantly, you know. And so again, that was a, you know, a great thing to do, man, because you're never going to forget it. And, you know, you spoke about music. You know, I remember we was doing music. We was training to music in 1969. I remember a Kung Fu guy saying, doesn't that distract you? And I'm like, no. You know, martial art is art in motion, is rhythm. So the music, no. The music, it helps you. It helps you with your rhythm. It helps you with your exercise. You know, when the aerobics came about and stuff, you know, they thought that they stumbled onto something, you know, by training with music. And I was like, we've been doing that since like 1969, you know, and stuff. But yeah, the music and stuff is definitely helps you with your rhythm. And we should train in the dark too. And people was like, isn't that distracting? I was like, if you can see in the dark, you can definitely see in the light. I remember we used to turn the lights off and train, you know. So yeah, just very unique stuff that we have in the system, no doubt.
Yeah, and speaking of the turning the lights out, I remember that as a child in the dojo on back on 125th Street, that when we were training, you know, there would be some times that happened, you know. So when I had opened up my first official school, I mean, I had school at St. John's Recreation Center back in early days, and where, you know, you're in the center. But when I opened up my first location back in like '82, it was on Rogers Avenue in Brooklyn, and I opened up 2 storefronts actually that I had gotten. But I wanted to just say that there was a couple times that I practiced. We were practicing in the dark, but it wasn't really because I turned the lights out. It was because the lights were turned out, and that's what we had to do.
That's what happens when the bills don't get paid, right?
That's it. Like I said, it was my first dojo.
Some may have thought it was a blessing. We're training by candlelight tonight, right?
That's right. He's something else, man. He's teaching us really the China stuff. Yeah. But no, that's some great stuff. So again, students, give me Speak about some of your students that you feel really expound what it is that you are presenting to them, and you believe Doc would be really appreciative of them, of what they're doing.
Well, I can't single out any because all of us, all of my students, are with the system, so to speak, and we have the syllabus, So, from yellow belt up, man, I'm proud of all of my students, because they're very dedicated, and very loyal and stuff, and they're willing to learn, and that's the greatest part of being a teacher, having students who are willing to learn, and I can't say enough about my students. They're so supportive, and it's just a great group of people, no doubt.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. GrandMaster Tom?
I hate to piggyback on that one too, but I would have to say the same. I think he would be proud to come into the schools and see us practicing the thing he created, and eager to learn and laughing. Like they'll be on the other side of this curtain, and I hear laughing going on. I'm like, sounds like they're doing Sanukas. It sounds like a dojo. I would be, had he been around right now in body, I think he would be happy to be bouncing into the schools and seeing people. Anyone I would like to, like GrandMaster said, introduce him to all. Of course, you've seen your guys, Master Parker, Master Sensei Kuzianik, the hardcore, but he'd want to say, where's your black belts? Good. Where's your underbelts? And he gave, like GrandMaster Logan said earlier, he gave everybody attention. He gave like a meet and greet. So it didn't matter if you were a beginner or some high-ranking poobah. He was gonna come over and talk to you.
Master Curry, I remember when Doc first found out that I was doing the sets, preserving his techniques. We're sitting in his living room, and I bought him a VHS tape because that's what was happening then, and it was the techniques that I learned, and he was beside himself, so to speak. He was like really emotional, and he was like, "Wow, that's a hell of a thing." He said, "You took the time out, you took the time and effort to reproduce what I've given you, and you're preserving it." And I remember Gina had called me and stuff later on and said, Doc damn near cried. He was so proud that you were, you know what I mean? That you took what you give him and you reserved it, and you're trying to pass this on to other students. And let me tell you a funny story about that too. Also, we were watching the VHS tape in his living room, and in the latter years, Doc was taking care of his mother, and she had Alzheimer's, so she would come and go. But I remember when we was watching the VHS tape, and she looked over, so Doc was like, "Wow, that's some beautiful stuff, man. You got it down from A to Z." And she looked at me and she said, "Do you know who my son is?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "My son is Moses Powell." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am. Sure, you're right. This is where I got it from." So I guess in my mind, she was like, "Oh, that's all right, but you know who my son is. My son is Moses Powell."
This to mention, I just made me think just now. I was just thinking about when I got Doc to come on down to Chicago in '96. I've always, loved him and wanted to bring him, someplace. In fact, the reason Doc came, or let me just say the method or means by Doc coming back to New York in like 80, what I brought him in 88, 80 something, and brought him back to New York from where he was. And, that was even before I opened up When Worlds Collide. But when I went and moved to Chicago, here in Chicago, man, I had to do something the first year I came. And we got that started, and I wanted to introduce him to everybody now in this new area of my life. And it was beautiful. I'm just getting some of the material from that first training, and I'm just looking forward to helping them to understand by presenting you all to them as we're doing right now. So we keep Doc alive because he's alive in us, and the more the people get a chance to see you and to know you, the more they get a chance to know Doc. Because I'm telling you, that's what they're telling me. They are learning more about him. Even though they're talking to you, they see you talking to them, they are saying that they are learning more about him because of you all. So I want to personally thank you all for doing what you do, continuing to do that. You're going to do this for the rest of your life. It's clear. There is no retirement. It is just getting others to become, to take on the mantle and continue to promote, so that as long as we're living and the idea of us is living, we're going to keep him alive. Would you agree with that?
No doubt, man. As long as I can breathe air, man, I'm gonna let people know, where it came from, and it was definitely Dr. Moses Powell, no doubt about it. And I might add too, Grandmaster Anthony, you are one of the chosen few among myself that he really let videotape. As you know, that him and Soaky Little John don't like you to videotape. But I was privileged, along with you, to be able to tape, these things. And I would tell them, this is for the future. This is for the people, you know what I mean, that hasn't even joined yet. And this is how we're going to preserve this. And I need this to go home and study so I can represent you in my best ability. So again, you were one of the fortunate ones that he would let tape as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
We were one of the fortunate ones.
Yeah.
Too. And actually, I have so many different hard drives all over the place, but I think I have Doc's last seminar, and I never really pushed that out anywhere. I just held on to it in the archives. I'll probably share it with you, man. But yeah, Doc was no different on film either. I mean, he was just like this, like one-on-one talking. But yeah, there's no reason to forget a great man like this, and to give credit where credit is due. And even the outside systems that you say, oh, that looks a lot like Sanuka's, probably because Sanuka's touched that system somewhere during their lineage as well. That particular flow of Sanuka's, I didn't see that before I saw Sanuka's, but since I've been in Sanuka's, I've started to see more of it. And that's something that, and you'll see it in all different kind of art forms. It's like somewhere along the line, someone crossed that line, or seen that, or maybe went to a seminar and picked it up. He touched a lot of people, as you met, have touched a lot of people. And still, GrandMaster Logan, with your videos, it's my whole school knows who you are. They watch it. And GrandMaster Anthony, like, I got to stay up on your podcast because I got to be able to answer my students' questions. When they say, hey, did you see that last episode with Soaky Littlejohn? And he said, I go, yeah. And he said, so I have to watch it. Very entertaining. You guys are really pushing hard.
And Grandmaster Tom, I think I speak for Grandmaster as well. We would love if you share those videos with us from the seminar.
I got the basement seminar when you were there.
Wow.
He used to come over. Like, I'd go kidnap.
That's some vintage material.
Off of Pennsylvania Avenue, I'd go over to come and get me. I'd go over there, kidnap them, bring them back for Saturday class, and then when everyone would leave, we would do private stuff. I have some of that too, downstairs.
Well,
I want to thank you all for blessing me with the opportunity to interview you, to dig into you, and for you to pour out what you have done. And it's always a blessing. And again, like I said, the first time that we've been on, and this is ours. This is not mine. This is ours, and it's for as many people as we can, to learn and to share in the knowledge of Dr. Moses Powell. We're saying walking with the master, and in walking with him, you got to experience more than just a technique. It wasn't just a technique. You learned him, who he was. He touched you. It was like what he said, if he touches you, he has you. So the point is, it's not just physically have you. He has us. He touched us. He has us lock, stock, and barrel. We are students of Dr. Moses Powell. And the beautiful part is in our love of him, we get the chance to love others, like Soke Little John Davis. If you don't know him, you really need to know him. If you don't know GrandMaster Tom, if you don't know GrandMaster George, if you don't know GrandMaster Bill, if you don't know any of the other grandmasters, if you don't know them, you need to learn who they are. And I'm just blessed to be able to introduce the opportunity for you to get this knowledge. Thank you, family out there. I look forward to the opportunity to come before you again. And thank you, guys. Thank you, Grandmasters, for your presence. Thank you.
Thank you much.
All right. Walking with the master. And we have the masters here. All right, family. Listen, make sure you subscribe to the official Grandmaster Anthony Muhammad YouTube channel so that you can stay plugged in. All right. Thank you. Peace.
Heart to heart.
Every student of a master here today, you reflect your master teacher. You want to walk like him. You want to talk like her. But you start by having an object in front of you that you admire.